The Unconscious Reality by Seth, as channeled by Jane Roberts. And this is a continuation of session 686, and it's from page 99. The race was dealing with the creation of a new world of physical experience. To do this particular kind of experiment, it was necessary that physical manipulation be concentrated upon. Ghost images from the future were one thing, inspiring mankind. Had such data instantly appeared before him, however, man would have been deprived of the physical joys, endeavors, and challenges that were so basic to the experiment itself. It would have been quite possible for you, as a race, to have chosen any other series of neurological pulses or messages as the real ones, and to structure your experience along different lines. The biological structure and the mental consciousness together, however, chose the most comfortable sequence in which a present area of activity brought about by neurological recognition would be backed up by unconscious mental knowledge and other biologically invisible neurological connections. The psyche knows itself and is aware of its parts. When ego consciousness reached a certain point of biological and mental competence, when experience in the present became extensive enough, then ego consciousness would be at the stage where it could begin to accept greater data. Indeed, it is now at that stage. Its focus in the present is now secure. That focus finally brought about, in your terms, as expansion of consciousness, and one that early man did not have to handle. In your terms, time now includes more space, and hence more experience and stimuli. Again, speaking historically, in the past, the private person at any given hour was aware at once only of those events happening in his immediate environment. He could respond instantly. Events were, to that extent, now manageable. The ego specialized in expansions of space and its physical manipulation. It specialized with objects. As a result, now, a person in any given hour is aware of events happening at the other side of the world. No immediate physical response he or she can make seems adequate or pertinent on many occasions. Bodily physical action then to that extent loses its immaculate precision in time. You cannot kick an enemy who does not live in your village or country, an enemy, furthermore, whom you do not know even personally. Again, to that extent, instant physical action in time is not the same kind of life and death factor that it was when a man was faced with an enraged animal or enemy in close combat. Now, in the past, the same way, love could be immediately expressed. In historic terms, early man, using here your theories about the race, early man was in intimate contact with his family, clan, or a tribe. With the developing expansion of space, however, loved ones often dwell far apart, and suddenly bodily response cannot be expressed at once, at a particular point of immediate contact. These developments with others are already triggering changes in man's behavior and inspiring him toward further alterations of consciousness. He now needs a more expansive viewpoint of past and future in order to help him deal with the ramifications of the present as it has evolved through experience. Recognized concepts of the self are the ego's interpretation of selfhood. They are projected into concepts of God and the universe. They meet with a certain biological validity because of the selectivity earlier mentioned, whereby only one series of neurological pulses is accepted, and upon these rides the reality of the egotistical self. At one time, a god interpreted those terms, served as a model. At one time, a god interpreted in those terms served as a model for the egotistical behavior of one self towards another self. In a world in which individuals were confined in space in a tribe or clan, action was immediate. The environment presented a framework in which consciousness learned to deal with stimuli in direct fashion. It learned how to focus. The necessary specialization meant that only so much data could be handled at once, emotionally or otherwise. The formation of different tribes allowed man to behave cooperatively in small numbers. This meant that those on the outside were selectively ignored, considered strangers. At that point, consciousness in those terms could not handle focused concentration, the emergence of ego consciousness, and simultaneously experience powerful feelings of oneness with other groups. It was struggling for individuation. Individuation, however, was dependent upon the cooperation of individuals. As the ego learned to feel more secure, the cooperative tendencies broadened so that the growth of nations was possible. It was inevitable, however, that ego consciousness would produce a reality in which it would finally need, in those terms, to accept other data and information that in the beginning it had to ignore. I am speaking so far in historical terms, as you understand them. History, however, is but your official line of accepted stimuli. Later in the book, that will be made clear. As egotistical consciousness expands to include hereto largely neglected data, then it will experience, practically speaking, a new kind of identity, knowing itself differently. Its concepts of godhood will significantly alter, as will the dimensions of emotion. Your heritage includes vastly richer veins of love, yet your concepts of self and godhood have severely limited these. You often seem to hate those with different beliefs than your own, for example, and you have perpetrated cruelties upon others in the name of religion and in the name of science, because your limited ideas about the nature of the self led you to fear your emotions. Often you are afraid that love will overwhelm you, for instance. While you were so concerned with protecting what you thought of as the boundaries and integrity of one's selfhood, as a race you actually arrived at a point where you were beginning to deny your own greater reality. But all of this is part of the experiment upon which the race embarked in your probability, where your physical survival in those terms once depended upon a narrowed focus while you learned physical manipulation. Now the success of that manipulation necessitates a broadening of focus, a new awakening into the larger existence of selfhood, and what will be a corresponding re-recognition of neurological activity that is now only briefly sensed by some, like Jane, but present in the heritage of your corporal structure. And Seth takes a break now. He says, "Now, I do not think you can reasonably be expected to take any more notes without a break. So, I give you one." And I'm going to pause here. Hope you found that interesting. I'm finding this very interesting. That's really profound, and I've never thought of it that way. So, if you have any comments, please leave them below. Please like and subscribe. And till soon.